Your salty tears season my life. It's the Black Powder Podcast. Thank you. Once again, it's on. This is the Black Powder Podcast, the only real libertarian podcast that exists. Now, we do have rivals. We do have people that think they can take the throne, the mantle of being the only real libertarian podcast, but they all fall short. And speaking of short, Tubbs not here today,
Well, to be fair, almost everyone I've met on the podcast might be shorter than Marcus. Aren't you like 6'4" or something like that?
6'5". Don't short me
6'5".
that inch.
Don't shortchange you. I'm only 5'11", so I'll be the short guy on the podcast. I don't know. Tubbs like 5'4". Just kidding. I don't know. He's probably my height. But yeah.
Yeah. Here we go. First, Free is already in here. Marcus is my 9th favorite Black libertarian. I think I went down a couple notches. I think last week I was 7 or so, but
it was like 8th, and then we remembered someone last minute who just had a good tan or something like that. And like,
yeah, I mean, it might have been Nikayla. He has a pretty nice Florida Keys tan.
Yeah.
Anyway, Eric, co-hosting today. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Good.
I'm here in North Carolina getting prepared for the Snowmageddon. For those of you who don't know, there's about to be a snowstorm. I'm a Florida man, live in North Carolina. It snowed last year, but it wasn't a big deal. I still drove in it. But I don't know if this is going to be as safe to drive in. We got all-wheel drive. We got four-wheel drive. We got our fire logs. We got our propane. I think we'll be all right. So,
well, on a serious note, we wish the best. We know this could be a potentially dangerous storm, so we're asking everybody to take as many precautions as possible. Don't travel if you don't have to. Eric, I need you on this podcast, so I prefer you stay home if at all possible with that beautiful little girl of yours. And everybody out there, just be safe. And you should probably move to California because right now it's raining, but it's going to be 71 degrees tomorrow when you guys are dealing with ice storms and all that great stuff,
But also taxes. So I'll stay here. We still got a state income tax here in North Carolina. Our next guest probably can't help with that because he's running for Congress, but he could use the bully pulpit and push to end the state income tax in the state of North Carolina. For our next guest, he's actually fairly local to me. Name is Steve Feldman. Marcus, you want to introduce him? Dr. Steve Feldman. He's running for Congress here in the great state of North Carolina.
Hold on. I'm slipping on the sound effects here. There we go.
Whoa.
Hey, Dr. Doc, Feldman. How's it going?
It's going very well. Thank y'all so much for having me on.
And by the way, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, speaking about selling people short, I'm the short one.
Well, you're also the smartest one. Well, I don't know. I'm pretty smart. Well, I don't have my doctorate.
Yeah, you're the smartest one on this podcast right now. So we appreciate having you on here. Real quick, I just want to let everybody know I met Steve at last year's, I think it was last year's, might have been the year before. I can't remember. Last year's state convention here in North Carolina. Steve, if you wouldn't mind telling people a little bit about yourself, how you came to libertarianism, how you became a libertarian, what motivated you to run for office, and we can get into your history. If you've ran for office before and all that, you can cover that right here if you want.
Yeah, so people are probably wondering, well, we know Steve keeps his bedroom very, very neat and orderly, but this is actually the hotel room. The actual bedroom is not this neat and orderly. I was excited to come on the Black Powder podcast because I thought we would be talking about the chemistry of black powder, the sulfur and the charcoal and all that. But because I'm a nerd, I like chemistry and physics and math. But my college made me take something other than that. And so I took economics, which it turned out was like the physics of human behavior. You apply a incentive force, and then you can predict what's going to happen. A lot of times there are perverse things that happen due to incentives, unintended consequences. But then I got into medicine, and I became a psoriasis specialist. I don't know if y'all watched any football in the last couple of weeks, but if you did, you saw one psoriasis ad after another. It's been a great run, all these new developments. And that allowed me to meet insurers, to meet other doctors, to meet drug company people. And everywhere I went, people would tell me, oh, those people are evil. And then when I went and talked to them, it turned out they were really nice, good, caring folks, just like me and the rest of the doctors. That makes me feel very peace-oriented when I see that people in other groups are often just like us. Dermatology let me go to all over the world, to Egypt, Saudi Arabia. I've been to Iran a couple times, have family in Israel, went to the West Bank, was in the homes of Christian and Muslim Palestinian families. Everywhere I go, people have been really nice, and it colors my perceptions of the world. So going into 2016, I was a registered Republican. I could swing either way, voting wise, but I'm a strong believer in fiscal responsibility and wanting to leave the kids of, a country that's not deeply in debt, not bankrupt. Well, in 2016, the Republicans nominated somebody for president that I just thought was just not consistent with my moral values. And I'm like, I need to find something else. And, I took the standard political quiz, and I'm like, I want to leave people alone in their bedrooms, and I want to leave their wallets alone. Well, that put me squarely in the libertarian bucket. And so I've been there ever since. And boy, in 2024, I got an email from the Libertarian Party saying, if you're even thinking about running, call us. And I wasn't really thinking about it, but I was sort of, thinking, gosh, the legislators that we've been sending, good, well-meaning folks, and they talk about how bad the debt and deficits are, but they're not fixing it. Maybe I should think about running. So I contacted the party, and they said, well, the deadline's tomorrow at noon. If you can, fill things out, take your paperwork to Raleigh, get it done by noon tomorrow, you're in. And I'm like, well, what I did was I said to my wife, can I borrow your car tomorrow? And because at the time I was driving a Nissan Leaf, which would not make it from Winston to Raleigh. And my wife's like, yeah, you could borrow it, but why? Why do you need to go to Raleigh?
So what was she, obviously, I guess she was okay with the idea. Did you have to twist her arm any to convince her it was your time to run for office, or was she pretty open to the idea?
I've been married to that woman over 40 years, and she is an angel to put up with me. She's like, do what you want. And fortunately, in 2024, the Democrats, looking at the district we're in, North Carolina's 10th, did not try to put up a good candidate. They invested nothing. The candidate who put his name in spent no money, didn't report to the FEC, did not have yard signs, had some spelling mistakes on his website. And my wife was able with good conscience to support me. I don't know if she will come around this time or not. We'll have to see who the other candidates are.
She's one of your hardest votes to fight for, right? To earn.
Here's the thing. Humans are very tribal. I've learned this in medicine too. Very tribal. We see things from the perceptions of our tribe, and I am not on. America's divided up into two tribes largely now that think the other side is evil, and I'm not on one of the two sides that thinks that either side is evil. And And so my wife, being on one of those sides, she feels she has to vote against that other side, even if it means not voting for the best candidate. If there's a Libertarian Party is the best candidate, it doesn't matter. They feel like, oh, we have to support our tribe because we have the best chance of beating their side. And I wish, one of the solutions would be ranked choice voting, so you could vote for who the best candidate is, who you think really is the best leader, without worrying that if you do this, you're helping somebody who's even worse than the next best option.
So go ahead,
Ed.
Marcus. No, you go ahead.
I often wonder why Americans have that train of thought, because I was talking to a guy at work a couple days ago where he said he held his nose and voted for Trump. And I'm like, I'm going to tell you something about voting. In California, locally, you vote your conscience. But on the federal level, it's already a done deal. We're a solid blue state. So if you don't like either party, let me tell you about the Libertarians, because you know who California is going to vote for. So on your federal vote, if you want to make Democrats and Republicans honest, we need to get a third party in there, so they can't just say how bad that other person is and sell their fear tactics instead of coming up with good ideas to sell to the people, because that's what government does, is fear, sell you fear more than good ideas these days. So my question to you is, when you had that libertarian epiphany, was there any people that came to mind, that any authors or politicians that kind of made you look at this in a different light as well?
No, I'm not a people person. I like physics, math, and chemistry. I like fundamental principles,
Gotcha.
and the Libertarian Party lives those principles. I feel like there's nothing you'll be able to ask me on this podcast. It won't be easy to answer, because we're just going to go back to basic principles of treating other people the way you'd want to. I mean, it's the golden rule, do whatever you want, give people a choice to do whatever they want, as long as they're not hurting somebody else. People think of this libertarian as being, a cold, heartless,
selfish is what we hear.
Selfish is the word I was looking for. Yes. When it's just the opposite, it's like, I don't control you. You do what you want. I have some humility. I don't believe that I know what's best for you. So do what you want, as long as you're not hurting anybody else.
And that's kind of the premise behind this podcast, is because what we did notice, especially in the last election cycle, libertarians are getting defined by the other side or the other sides. And not enough people had access to libertarians to actually hear them speak and their ideas and whatnot. So that's why we took up this this enterprise of bringing the candidates to the people, so they can actually see we're not batshit crazy. Well, I'm not going to say that. I'm gonna bring that one back in a little bit, because I went to a convention in July here in California, and there were some crazy people here, but they were doing no harm, and all they wanted is for you to live your life as you so choose, within that principle of doing no harm. So,
yeah. Well, when we look back at the 2024 election, there were actually two good presidential candidates, honorable people running. And they were the Libertarian and the Green Party candidates. And I had a lot of respect for both of them.
Yeah. Chase is a friend of the show. He's been on here a few times. Eric.
Yep. And I was just going to say, you say crazy. I could see how some people who aren't used to hearing about liberty on a daily basis, or that's what their algorithm's showing them, they could think, or some of our ideas seem outrageous, but it's probably because they've been, indoctrinated so much with like the high level of control or tyranny or whatever you want to call it, coming from parts of all of the political spectrum, really. You know what I mean? So how are you using your platform to get the message of liberty to the candidates in your district? And real quick, could you explain where your district is in North Carolina and how are you getting that message to them?
Yeah, so North Carolina's 10th congressional district includes the counties of Lincoln County, Catawba County, Iredell County, Yadkin County, and much of the county that I live in, Forsyth County. And I think it's designed to dilute the relatively liberal vote within my county with, 4 or 5 very rural counties. It sure would be nice to see an independent panel, create these districts instead of purposely gerrymandering them in the biggest way possible. And Democrats in North Carolina are furious that Republicans do this. But when they talk about it, they rarely mention that the Democrats, when they were in control, they started the gerrymandering process in North Carolina.
Yeah. So that's the thing, is it's like the pot calling the kettle black. That both sides are guilty of using gerrymandering to their benefit whenever their party is in control, usually at the state level. That's where the gerrymandering happens, right? But it affects the rest of the political spectrum. When I ran for city council in Jacksonville, Florida, they were gerrymandering city council districts. There were supposed to be rules that prevented the district lines from crossing major bodies of water or natural bodies of water. But the district I was running in was the only one that crossed the St. Johns River at basically the widest point of the river. And I went and to every redistricting meeting at the city council level, and I raised heck over it, and nothing got done. They did their part for what they want to do, not necessarily against me, but for their chosen candidate. You know what I mean? They choose their voters, and they don't let the voters choose the candidate. So I digress, but yeah, very good point.
It's not that big a digression, and I got a lot of Democratic friends. I got a lot of Republican friends, and both are caring, well-meaning people, and each of them think the other side is inherently evil and that they have to do things that violate their moral standards in order to, beat the other people because the other people are worse. And I'm here to tell my district, to tell everybody, hey, they're not so bad. Okay, we disagree on policy, but pick your worst policy. Pick the one you're most, inflamed about, guns and children. One side saying, we got to get rid of the guns, and they won't do it because they don't care about children. And the other side is saying, they won't put guns in schools to protect the kids because they don't care about children. They want children to die. And neither side wants children to die, and both sides care deeply about the children. But the stuff they're saying about each other just raises so much vitriol and animosity and probably blood pressure, and it's probably killing all of us. We just need to calm down and relax and get back to, we can have fair districts. We don't have to make them, gerrymandered one way or the other so that our side has power. And we hate gerrymandering, but we have to do it because those people want to destroy they have sinister plans. I think I got that directly out of one of my local Congress people's things. It's like, they've got sinister plans well, maybe not from them, but it's, it's like, we want to make this country great, but they have sinister plans to destroy the country. No, they don't. They want the country to be strong, just like we do. I think libertarians tend to be more unbiased about this. Some of us probably see that both parties are evil. I don't see it that way. I see the goodness in others. And Eric, you asked, how am I going to spread this message? I spent a lot of money on billboards and signs last time. I have a great website. I will invest more in social media this time, videos. I will Pickens told me I need to, invest a little money spreading those Facebook videos, across my district, which I will do. Uh, a team and I are working on children's books now because I think we got to capture people early and let them learn the basic principles about how we get these weird ideas about the people in other groups.
Awesome.
Right.
Awesome.
So speaking of signs and media and all that stuff, I have just posted the link to Dr. Feldman's page where you can donate. You don't have to be in the Winston-Salem area to support libertarian candidates. You can support them, whatever you got, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. All of that stuff adds up. So if we can get 10 people right now to donate $20 and we could leave here with $200 in his coffers tonight at bare minimum, we'd greatly appreciate you. And please post when you do, because we'll give you a shout out. Let everybody know that you're putting your money where your what do we say, Eric? Put your money where
your money where your memes are.
Yeah.
So libertarians like to share memes and cyberbully politicians of the government with memes. But how about let's try to get some libertarians elected to office. Put your money where your memes are. Let's really move the needle. I think Dr. Feldman's got a great shot to spread the message of liberty. I like it because it's pretty local here to me. I'm in High Point. He's in Forsyth County, I think, in Winston-Salem. I hate to keep going back to the campaign part of this. That's kind of my favorite part of talking to candidates.
Go ahead.
But your district is the incumbent running for re-election. What's their political party, and how evenly split is your district?
Yeah,
even with it being gerrymandered.
I don't even want to call people opponents. I think that's a bad way to think of it. The other candidates, the incumbent is running. I assume he'll win his primary. He's a gun manufacturer. Likes military spending. He's one of his big issues is getting the Chinese out of American military bases because they own the GNC stores or some of the nutrition stores or something along those lines. I can't remember what.
Yeah.
I'm sure this is a key point. I'm sure he wants peace at least as much as I do. I mean, he served in the military. He's seen people killed. I'm certain of it. At least I assume he has. He was Special Forces, if I'm not mistaken, and served in Afghanistan. He knows the horrors of war. I'm absolutely certain he wants peace at least as much, maybe more than I do, if that's possible. And he thinks, I believe he thinks, because I put words in other people's mouth, but I think he thinks we get there by killing other people in other countries, by killing the bad guys. When I tell you, the way to be peaceful, the way to get to peace is not to have enemies in the first place, to make people our friends. We won't make friends of the Persian people by bombing them. The Persians, the Iranians, have a history of human rights that goes back 1,500 years before the Magna Carta, with Cyrus and Darius. And they should be our best friends. I think too few people realize that we overthrew their democratically elected prime minister in the 50s. We installed a dictator in the country. We supported that dictator's secret police, and we got upset with them when they threw the dictator out and took our people hostages. I don't know if many people know that we supported Saddam Hussein's use of weapons of mass destruction, in particular chemical weapons, on Iranian people. And I'm a dermatologist. You can read about it because the mustard gas caused skin injuries, and you can read about the mustard gas injuries of the Iranian soldiers and stuff. So we all want peace. I think some of us are misguided in how we think to get there. And another way, Eric, that I'm trying to get this message out, I have a novel out called Bent Towards Justice. And Emmy Award winner Ed Asner narrated the audiobook version. Do you know Ed Asner?
No, I do not. I'm looking
He's
him
too
up
young.
now.
Yeah. So, people my age would know him because he was Lou Grant on the Lou Grant show and on Mary Tyler Moore. But you young people might remember that he was the voice of Carl Fredricksen in the movie Up.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I'm familiar with Up. Yep, that's awesome. It's a great voice. If you're not going to read it yourself, I always like. That's a great voice for an audio to do the audio book. So that's awesome. I wrote the title down to that book. I'll be checking it out. It's going in the Amazon car or wherever. I'll see if I can find it on Thrift Books, but I doubt it. You know what I mean? I like to save $1. But anyways, go ahead, Marcus.
So, Dr. Feldman, let's say you're at a campaign event and somebody comes up to you and says, why should I? This is kind of like Eric with his elevator. What do you call it? The elevator pitch?
Elevator pitch.
Yeah. Why should they vote for you?
Easy peasy. Civility, fiscal responsibility, and peace. And they go together.
Yeah.
I can work with other people. I don't denigrate other people. All the candidates want to bring people together right before they say, but those folks want to destroy the country. They don't want to destroy the country. You look at abortion, oh my God, the two sides can't stand each other. They want to kill babies. They want to control women's bodies. One side wants to protect the lives of the unborn, and they don't want to, and they want the government to stay out of controlling women's bodies. The other side doesn't want the government controlling women's bodies, and they too care about the life of the unborn. They prioritize those two things differently. One says higher priority to protecting the baby. The other says higher priority to protecting the woman's right to control her body. But neither one is evil. Neither one wants to do bad things. I don't have an answer for what the policy should be because, as a libertarian, I believe the government should not control women's bodies. And as a libertarian, I believe the government can't allow people to hurt others. And if that baby's a baby, then you can't hurt it either. So, yeah. So there is no right answer. If somebody tells me I'm not voting for you because I have the right answer and you don't, I'm like, I understand, but I do not think anybody has the right answer to this. At the very least, maybe we could agree that government should stay out of funding abortion as a starting spot. And people on both sides should be free to peacefully try to convince the other side of their views.
Yeah. Fair enough.
I mean, that has to be one of the hardest issues for a libertarian because I always go by the mantra, government shouldn't be in your doctor's office, shouldn't be at your kitchen table, shouldn't be in your wallet, shouldn't be at your job. There's so many places government doesn't belong. And probably one of the most important is your doctor's office because, you being a doctor, you understand there's a lot of in the industry that looks for treatments versus cures and things of that nature. And when you're having the government involved in the development of drugs and things of that nature, it's going to go after its lobbyist point of view versus what the efficacy of what is actually going to work, so to speak, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah. I think it comes back to, the civility, fiscal responsibility, and peace. And another very similar issue is transgender. People are like, they're basically biased against these people. And the other side is saying they want to mutilate young children. I'm like, no. I mean, the libertarian point of view is very strong. Leave the government out of these difficult decisions that these families are making. But at the same time, you've got honest libertarians who believe the government cannot allow families to mutilate their children. And so this is another tough issue where you have good people on both sides. And let's put them in a room together, sit them down at a table together instead of keeping them in separate rooms, saying
In echo
horrible
chambers,
things
yeah.
about the folks on the other side.
Yeah.
The other thing about libertarianism that I think is critical to understand is kind of like in Spider-Man when Peter Parker's uncle Ben says, with great power comes great responsibility. I think with great liberty comes great responsibility. I don't do drugs. I'm a libertarian. I think drugs should be legal. I don't think you should use them, but that's your responsibility, not the government's responsibility to tell you what to do.
Yeah. And to go with that, we're all about firearms on this podcast, but we're also all about firearm safety and well trained and, like that sort of thing. Being responsible, you should have the right to defend yourself, you should have the right to carry, but you need to know how to use it and use it safely. And all the, Marcus will say, know your target and what's beyond it. All the things to firearm safety, go get training, go get a concealed carry permit, or, we at least highly encourage that. Get as much training as possible. Do range day more often than you already do. If you're going to carry safely and be responsible.
Use a holster.
I was in the Marine Corps for 7 very long weeks. Officer Candidate School, so I have held and put together and taken apart my weapon, my M16. But I don't own guns. I don't have guns in my home. I don't think having a gun in my home would make me safer in any way. I'd be worried that there'd be a problem. But I don't think I have enough humility to say, I don't know what's right for you. I don't think the government knows what's right for you. If you think you should have a gun, it makes you safer, that's your decision. I love the way you believe in the responsibility aspect. And when I think of what regulations there should be, if any, I talk to the people who have guns and I ask them, what should we do? Do we want people with a history of mental illness and violent criminal activity carrying guns around? And they tell me no. But how to put together the legislation to control something like that is tough.
Yeah, that's a very nuanced topic, because there was a Supreme Court case, I think it was last year, where they were asked. Well, it was about nonviolent felons having their rights restored. And for me, I'm like, yeah, if you do a financial crime, you may not have the propensity towards violence, but you're still a felon. I think we need to be able to look at every case individually, and that's another libertarian principle, is look at it from an individual aspect. But as a gun owner and a father, well, now my kids are adults, so one just graduated from college, the other one graduates in May. And when I was telling them about gun safety, I handed them a gun safety book, and I told them, I'm not taking you shooting until you come to me and say you're ready to go. And I'm going to task you with knowing the knowledge from that book, because that's one of the things. And I actually showed my kids gunshot wounds of varying degrees. And I said, this is why you should have no curiosity about what this does, when they were young. Mind you, all my stuff was locked up. It was not in their it wasn't available to them. But I grew up around guns, being that my dad was a hunter and former law enforcement. But when you have children and firearms, there's a higher level of responsibility that you take as a parent, obviously. And if somebody doesn't possess those skills, that's where the nuance part about being a libertarian comes in, because how far do we want the government to go? If somebody is schizophrenic, bipolar, I don't want them having a gun. I'll say that that's my personal belief. But how much do we want the government involved in that? And that's where we get into these great libertarian debates that I love to have. But me personally, I think they should be restricted from owning firearms.
And that's where Marcus, I'm just kidding. I tend to agree. I was gonna say I was trying to make a libertarian joke here, but
Yeah.
that's why you're not a real libertarian. But
I'm
that's
the only
common
real
sense,
libertarian.
I think, especially like
Oh,
Dr. Feldman said, if they have and you might have said too, Marcus, if they have a history of mental health and violence, like obviously those two don't go together. That's unsafe. But each case needs to be looked at on an individual basis to an extent. I don't know that there's a magic pill that'll fix all of that. You know what I mean? It's a very nuanced topic.
Yeah.
Dr. Feldman, that being said, what is, I don't know how much door knocking campaigning or invites, home meets with people inviting you to their homes, getting a group of people together. I think that's a great way to campaign, especially at the national level. But what are the issues that people in North Carolina are talking to you about right now? We've kind of touched on the hot button issues, some of the harder ones for a libertarian to answer, and you've had great responses for those. But what are some of the more common issues that people are talking about? And I'll throw you. Is it the economy? But that's up to you to decide.
Yeah. So handing our children a bankrupt country is, to me, one of the three ginormous issues, and they're not talking about that. And I think they're talking about whether some guy can claim to be a woman and be on a swim team with girls. Maybe that's of some importance, but compared to whether we're going to hand our kids a bankrupt country, they're not going to have swim teams. You know, it's somewhat of a distraction that maybe we can do two things at once, but we need to focus, serious attention on fiscal responsibility. But to answer your question, I think, immigration's big, healthcare is big, state of the economy is big. Yeah, I mean, the tariffs, that's just, more taxation on us, and it's going to impede economic growth. The fiscal irresponsibility, putting everything on a credit card, may feel good now. It's going to come back to bite us later. There's not going to be money for Social Security, if we don't get the financial house in order. And people think, oh, we'll cut back a little here, a little there. If you add up defense spending, the various healthcare programs, the various income support programs, and interest on the debt, and I include VA veterans benefits in that, that's 90% of the federal budget. You could take all of the rest and stop paying any of it, and we'd still be in massive deficits. So these are areas where we have to address. And okay, immigration is also important, but we've got to get fiscal responsibility.
Yeah.
So when you get to Congress, who do you see yourself caucusing with on these issues?
Yeah. My ideal world is if it comes down to like an even split, what would that be, like 216 each, and I'm like the deciding vote. I will caucus with whichever side agrees to to give people more liberty, give them more choice, but people have to use that choice responsibly. But I don't even think about it in those terms, because I don't really want there to be this caucus and that caucus. I want people to start seeing themselves as Americans all working together. And I would try to, to bring people together that way. I would imagine I would try to go out to dinner every night with both Republicans and Democrats who are willing to work together, and have a journalist at the table taking notes, so we can, because our goals are the same. We all want peace. We all want the country to be on good financial footing. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that if one side just spends more and the other side just cuts taxes, you really haven't solved the problem. And
yeah, well, let me ask you this. Who is your favorite person, politician in the House or the Senate, who would you say that's the guy I want to talk to first, or girl?
Well, my two favorite people in the House and Senate are very similar, right? It would be Massey and Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
Which Sanders?
Yeah, it would be Bernie Sanders and Thomas Massey. I think those two are truly, the Jewish word would be mensch. They're truly gentlemanly people who care about people, who want the world to be better, and they see things from totally different perspectives and have totally different ideas about what would make America better. But they both clearly could be civil, could present their views without denigrating the other party, and could be a model for how we could work together.
That is a very unique perspective. I saw you going Massey Rand Paul, and you threw in a curveball there. You know what I mean? But that's and I like it because it shows that split that I think a lot of libertarians like in the House, the Senate, and then the executive is going to be the executive much longer than this election. Not much longer, but 2 more years. You know, we're not changing up the White House this election cycle. But you could have the House or the Senate move one way or the other. You can have a split between the House and the Senate. Usually, libertarians like that because they think it leads to a certain level of compromise to where they get rid of some things and they cut some spending, but that never really happens. Instead, they compromise the other way and add a little bit extra in there so that their side gets this spending and the other side also gets this spending. So, you know what I mean? But still very interesting perspective. That's a new one. Great answer. I did not see that one coming.
Yeah. Well, the last time that happened was Clinton.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember for his 8 years what the House and Senate switched up and bounced back and forth on the makeup of it was. But I'd like to go back and look at that. Somebody might be able to correct us in the chats and be like, first 2 years, then break it up. Let us know if you're watching what the House and Senate looked like while Bill Clinton was president. But yeah, very interesting.
I want to give the current executive a little piece of advice because I'm quite convinced the current executive would love to go down in history as the greatest president in American history, to have expanded our country by bringing Greenland into the fold and stuff. And I would say, if you want to achieve that aim, it's not going to be easy, but what I think you need to do is work with both sides in the Congress, create a sense of civility there, and bring people together. And if you can do that, you will go down as a great one.
You think he's got enough time to right the ship in 3 years? I mean, what would he have to do? Let's give him another first 100 days. What would the executive do? How about this? Once you're in the House, he calls you in and he's like, Dr. Feldman, I want to be able to work with you. What advice are you offering Trump in his next 100 days?
First thing I think we should do, because it's so easy, it's a no-brainer, would personally help my patients, would be to give Americans the freedom back to buy their drugs from whatever country they want to buy them from. Because they could bring down the price of drugs that they're spending right away. And the people who don't want them to be able to do that, we blame them, that they're in the cahoots with the drug companies and stuff. No, but the reason they want to limit Americans' freedom to buy drugs from Mexico or Canada is because they want to protect people. They want to protect people from bad drugs and stuff. And I can understand that, but you're killing people that way. Because they don't have access to the drugs they can afford. So let's give people back that freedom to buy the drugs from wherever they want and see what the success is. And now, again, with great freedom comes great responsibility. You have to make sure you're buying from a reputable source. I mean, there's no solutions. There's only trade-offs.
Exactly.
The other thing I would say is on healthcare is to make healthcare, Medicare, Medicaid plans, high deductible health plans immediately, so that the person buying the healthcare has an incentive to keep the cost of healthcare down. If the person using the healthcare is having that healthcare paid by some insurance company, they have every incentive to just take as much healthcare as they can get and not worry anything about the cost. As soon as you give people the responsibility for the cost, then before they take that MRI from their hospital, they'll call around to 3 different places and see who's got the MRI cheapest. And as soon as they do that, prices are going to come down like rocks. Now, people are like, Steve, is this possible? Let's look at it the other way. Right now, if you go to a grocery store, you can buy a lot of things pretty inexpensively. What would happen if we said food is a right, and the government and insurance companies should pay for your food? Overnight, everybody would be buying shrimp and lobster. Yeah. And the price of the shrimp and lobster would go up to $100 a pound, $1,000 a pound, and people wouldn't care because somebody else is paying for it. That's what we're dealing with in our healthcare system, and it accounts for such a large part of the federal budget. We have to bring it down. I don't want to bring it down by having the government tell us what drugs we can have, what drugs we can't have, and ration the care. I don't want the third-party insurance companies doing that. I certainly don't want to be the doctor and being in charge of denying care to my patients. I think patients need to take personal responsibility for their healthcare choices. We can give them an HSA account because we're not cruel. We want them to be able to afford it, but they have to face the cost. That's why capitalism works so well. It's because you have prices that determine things, supply and demand, competition. Shoot, if you go to Costco every year and see the televisions, and they get bigger and bigger and nicer, and the price keeps dropping and dropping, that's capitalism at work. The healthcare system needs a big dose of that.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Go ahead.
So right now, I think the healthcare system is like the 6th largest economic factor, or I forgot what they call it on Wall Street, but it's like the 6th largest part of this economy. Do you think? Well, obviously, your idea would work, but how hard would it be to actually implement that? Being that it's a publicly traded stocks and whatnot, and they're expected to meet those Wall Street expectations. How do we balance that with, actually good healthcare?
And I think the term Mark is looking for is industry. It's like the 6th largest industry. There you go.
Yeah.
Is it really only the 6th largest?
It's probably higher.
Right. Yeah.
I'd be shy, sort of surprised if we're number 1 or 2. The way that they're popping up everywhere, with these gold-plated facilities that the government, it's like a quarter of the budget is healthcare. It's something enormous. I don't think the government needs to tell commercial insurers, this is what you have to do. If the government just changed the Medicare and Medicaid to high deductible health plans, that would create this enormous economic force to drive down prices. And then people who are even uninsured would have much better access. Right now, the idea, we need to insure more people. The more people you insure, the less competition there is, the less incentive there is to seek out lower cost care. And so the prices just get worse and worse. It's an unsustainable system.
I
learned in that economics class. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Eric.
No, I was saying I live fact check this is actually 2nd. I think it went up in 2020. As of 2026, largest industry in the U.S. is commercial banking. 2nd, health and medical insurance, specifically health. So I guess that's health and medical insurance. And then 3rd is right behind it, commercial real estate. So, but
interesting.
Yeah. Sorry, not trying to interrupt.
No, I didn't know real estate was that high.
I just didn't want us getting fact checked by the comments section and be like, these guys don't know what to talk about. So there it is. I think it moved up, but especially when we had Dr. Feldman on, didn't want him going to his patients tomorrow and giving them some false information. So there
You couldn't have been 6. These bow ties aren't cheap.
Exactly. And I wanted to say this. I mentioned that in the pregame before he came on. I was like, he wears the bow tie everywhere. I think it's awesome. I love it. It's good, good branding.
That's
So
how you
it's
know he's
great.
smart.
That's right. And I feel like that one's not a clip on, but I don't know. Hey, you got me. Oh,
He went from clip on to Amish that quick.
that's funny. That's cool. I got him.
All right, so I wanted to go to one of your positions because I think this is clearly one of the big button issues for libertarians right now is government transparency, and the fact that there was a law passed, pushed by Thomas Massey, that demanded the release of the Epstein files, and then right on the numbers, we get a conflict with Venezuela, wag the dog, all kinds of stuff going on. And now it's on the way back burner, if not in the back of the oven at this point. Government, what would you do as far as government transparency goes?
Yeah, I just make everything wide open. And a big part of that is, I think a big part of why people want to protect some things is because they feel that releasing certain things will help our enemies. But I don't want to have enemies. I want everybody to be friends. I don't see any reason to think the Chinese should be our enemies. They're doing their best for their population. I don't think we need to tell them what kind of government to have. That's their responsibility, not ours. And it may be that when you're dealing with 1 billion people, a system like ours might not even work. I don't know. If we want to change their system, we should do it by being good role models. And I think people around the world look at our system right now. I'm like, yeah, I don't think I want to go that way.
No.
Yeah, so we could be much. So I think openness. I don't think Russia should be our enemy. I think the whole idea that our government wanted to put German and American tanks right on the Russian border by bringing Ukraine into NATO was a horrible idea to have. Now, it's also horrible and maybe worse that the Russians would invade Ukraine and do all this. But a friend of mine told me about a Vietnamese Buddhist monk who said, if the lettuce is not growing well, you don't blame the lettuce. You have to take personal responsibility to make things better. And we should look at our own actions and what we've done, a lot of which is out of our addiction to oil, that we just are addicted to oil. And so we do things that our subconscious convinces ourselves is the right thing to do when clearly it violates our moral standards, like supporting dictators in countries that have oil, as long as they give us the oil. It's just, we can do better in that regard.
And that makes me want your opinion on the Department of Education, because I think Americans lack the critical thinking skills to understand why Iran is our enemy, or people that actually think China is our enemy. Because I've said this on this podcast for the last 3-4 years, there's no way we can go to war with China, because you can't send cruise missiles one way and cargo ships the other way. There is a dependence between both of these countries economically that, if broken, would break both countries. So the rhetoric, especially with the Greenland thing, I kind of I was wondering this week, and I'd love you guys' opinions on this. If we need Greenland because of China and Russia, wouldn't it be paramount upon the United States to make sure Russia is weakened as much as possible in Ukraine to slow their progression down to be a threat coming over the melting ice cap in the Arctic. Wouldn't you want them to be weakened? And with China, they don't have a true what in military terms a blue water fleet. They're still technically a brown water fleet. If anybody you Google those terms if you don't know what they mean, but they're still brown water. They're not projecting that far out and cannot project that far out because they simply don't have the logistics to do so. Not like the United States that has bases, 115, 120 bases all over the world and have the logistic supply lines to support a military enterprise of that magnitude. So that's what I talk about when we talk about how our current government, no matter which side you're on, sells you fear more than they sell you good ideas on why we should be doing this stuff. Because if you break that down realistically, Russia and China are not a true threat to the United States because nobody's going to nuke. We're not nuking each other because that's the KISS. What was it? The MAD principle. I don't know why
mutually
I was
assured destruction.
Yeah. When I thought about KISS, I was looking at Eric, and
I thought you were thinking, "Keep it simple, stupid." That's what I think of when I think of KISS.
That is what I was talking about. But you were biting your bottom lip at the time, and that's why. I'm sorry. I'm from California.
Go ahead.
I am a heterosexual individual, and Eric is not sexually attractive to me. So I want to put that out there as we start.
Glad you cleared it up. Way to go, Marcus.
But
Steve, do you want to touch any of that?
Yeah, I think you've hit on a really important point. I think the world will be a safer place if we accept that we're going to be dependent on China for lithium batteries, and China is going to be dependent on us to feed their people with North Carolina pork. I mean, that's the greatest. I don't think we can develop a military that's sufficiently strong that we can wipe out China's military threats against us. It's just not possible. We put a bunch of carriers around Taiwan, and they'll destroy them with all these little tiny supersonic missiles that cost 1/1000th of the cost of a carrier. It's just so being peaceful to others. I've lived in one of the greatest, probably the single best time to be alive. The world is a safer, better place to live now than it's ever been. It's better now in the 2020s than it was in the 2000s and in the 1990s or 80s. The economy's better. People's quality of life is better. We need to realize how good we have it. There's things to improve, clearly, and we don't want to leave our kids a world worse than what we found. And fiscal responsibility, peace, and civility are going to be critical to how we leave things for our kids.
Steve, as we start to wrap this up, I just want to say, I sorry to interrupt, Marcus, but you're like an eternal optimist, Steve. You really are a true breath of fresh air. And I totally agree with you. Almost every measurable metric of our life, my life, is better now than it was in 2020 for sure, because that year stunk, but it's gotten great since then. And I'm these young, early 37 years I've been on this earth, things have only gotten better. But you're exactly right. The economy, believe it or not, the environment, the technological advances available to make both the economy and the environment flourish. You know what I mean? Like our way of life. You know what I mean? Our liberties, believe it or not, it may seem like there's more and more legislation, but I think more and more people are paying attention to their own personal liberties and that personal responsibility needed to have great liberty. So I just want to say thank you for coming on the show. This isn't a rush to get off, but we hit 1 hour. we got your link up here. Marcus, if you got any other statements, and if not, maybe we'll let Steve wrap this up.
I just want to thank you again, Dr. Feldman, for coming on. I agree with Eric. You most certainly were a breath of fresh air. I often like to call myself an eternal optimist because people will come up to me like, "How you doing?" And I'll tell them I'm just happy to be here. And they're like, "What do you mean by that?" And I was like, "You could be a lot worse places." And to Eric's point, back in the 1980s, there was here in Southern California, Southern California, there was a what they called smog alerts, where when I was in elementary school, we couldn't even go outside and play because the air was so polluted that it was dangerous. And I don't want to give credit to government for a damn thing, because I firmly believe government ruins everything eventually. And it takes people like Dr. Feldman and Eric Parker and Pastor Tubb, and more importantly, Marcus Matthews, the only real libertarian, to put out these messages where, yeah, we can do better if we limit government and get government out of the way. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it to Dr. Feldman. In your closing statement, please also expand on how people can get in touch with you and follow you and do all that good stuff.
Okay, so openness is really important, but I wouldn't worry about the Epstein files. I want to see openness of those lab notebooks from Wuhan, China, where they invented the COVID vaccine. I don't know if people are, well, your listeners are probably aware that there are government grants going there that said we're going to modify this virus and see what effects it has. Whether you donate to my campaign or not, please go to my website, look at my policy positions, see how you can be positive without denigrating other folks, and whether you give me money to support the campaign, or even better, spread the message to 10 of your friends about we can be civil, we need fiscal responsibility, we need to be more peaceful. And you can go to the website, stevefeldmanforcongress.com. You can email me at steve@stevefeldmanforcongress.com. I'll even give you my cell phone number. It's direct to me, 336-577-1164. If you see things on the website you agree with and want to support this, great. And if you see things you disagree with and think I'm wrong about, it's even more important to email me or call me and tell me that, because I can only get better from that kind of feedback.
Awesome. Eric, You got anything?
Hey, great show, Dr. Feldman. Thanks for coming on. I'll be telling everybody that I work with in Winston-Salem, if they live in any of the counties that your district's in, to make sure to look you up. I'll share this episode to them so they can get to know you. Let me know if you need any help campaigning. Maybe I'll shoot you a text from that number you just gave us, and awesome. I'll reach out, see how I can help.
I should have given you my real cell phone number.
Not the fake one. 555-555.
No. I have his cell phone number, so I will shoot that to you, Eric, and you could begin with your harassment and door knocking campaign on his behalf, because we always say you can put your feet where your memes are too and go walk a district for him. But I want to thank Dr. Feldman for coming on. This has been the Black Powder Podcast. Doctor, if you could stay, the closing thing is about 58 seconds. So stay so we could chop it up for 1 second afterwards. We're not going to try to keep you that long. I know it's getting late where you are. But this has been the Black Powder Podcast, the only real libertarian podcast. I am Marcus Matthews, the only real libertarian. I want to say thank you to Eric Parker, Bold Liberty, and especially thanks to Dr. Feldman for coming on, and all of those who watched and listened, to the LP National for sharing, getting the message out there. Go to his website, stevefeldmanforcongress.com. Click that donate button and give a few bucks. And let's get this thing rolling, because this is what libertarians need to do for the future. And we are the new founding fathers of the Libertarian Party. We have to start all over, like I always say. But we're going to get this done. So with that being said, as we always close this podcast, live free,
or
Or
die.
die. This is the Black Powder Podcast, coming at you live and direct. Your salty tears season my life. It's the Black Powder Podcast.